When each animal or dinosaur goes extinct, there is usually at least one recorded sighting of said animal after it's thought to be long gone. Some of them are hoaxes, while others are actually the real deal. Others still are in another category altogether. These are some extinct animals caught on camera. How many of them are actually still around? Number 12. Pterodactyls. Dinosaurs have long since been extinct. We learn all about this as young children. Although we've been taught to believe that they are long gone, there have been quite a few sightings of these magnificent creatures. When pterodactyls ruled the sky, it is commonly assumed that they resided on this planet with all of the other dinosaurs millions of years ago. However, there has always seemed to be some sort of indication that they might not have died out along with the rest of the pack in one of the mass extinctions. Both cave drawings and old-timey photos like the one pictured here seem to present proof for the argument that these things might still be around. There are always people who say that photos like this one, even as seemingly plausible as it might appear, are works of con men who are often just out to make an extra dollar off of a gullible fool. Of course, there is always that assumption when it comes to pieces of supposed proof until it is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, and yet sometimes, even then, you'll still have those who don't believe. Even if this incredible capture is just a falsified picture, there are others out there that could possibly be real. Number 11. The Checotah Peccary. Back in 1930s, the remains of a strange creature were found and first described on record. It was a sort of pig that would later become known as a peccary. A peccary, like you can see in this image, is a beast that looks like a baby pig. They are similar, but they are unable to be domesticated and come from a different continent than your own. After finding proof but no living specimen of this interesting species, the Checotah Peccary was labeled as an animal that had become extinct. Apparently, no one let the little pigs in on the secret because sightings of them started occurring, and it seemed as though more and more populations of peccary were popping up. It wasn't until 1975 that researchers actually came across one peccary alone in the forests of Paraguay. Some think that there could be as many as 3,000 wandering around, refusing to die off completely. Number 10. Gigantopithecus. What you see in this picture is an artist's idea of what a Gigantopithecus looked like when it was alive. This giant ape walked around the earth big enough to survive alongside some of history's largest apex predators. The craziest part of thinking that this guy is still out and walking around today is that there are actually a ton of people that believe this to be true. They just call it Bigfoot. As you should know, Bigfoot is just about the most popular cryptozoological creature known to man besides Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. According to fossil evidence, we know that they once roamed the forests of what is now southern China for millions of years. It is also thought that they died out about 100,000 years ago. We aren't sure if this big guy is still around today in that prehistoric size and form, but we know that there is a lot of footage and some sort of large ape running amok throughout North America. Could it be the same thing? Number 9. The Javan Tiger. Off the coast of Indonesia, there is an island called Java. Although it sounds like the capital of all the best coffee in the world, it used to be the home of the Javan tiger. This species was named from the lands it inhabited, but was brought to extinction due to hunting. There's only so far you can run when you're being hunted on an island. The last time the animal in the photo was officially seen was back in 1976. After being declared extinct, one was said to have been sighted several times throughout the 80s, putting proof in everyone's minds that it still lived. Researchers went out in a major exploration to find solid evidence that the tigers were there in the mid-90s, but by the time 1994 rolled around, they were once again believed to be extinct. Then, just a year later, there was another person who supposedly saw not one, but a whole pack of Javan tigers. The last sighting of these tigers were in the Ivorybilled National Park in the early 2000s. Perhaps they are still around. Number 8. The Mexican grizzly bear. In 1960, people believed that the very last of the Mexican grizzly bear was shot and killed in Mexico. They were marked as extinct just 4 years later. Before they were eradicated, their territory ranged from Colorado to deep into Mexican territory. You might think that the grizzly in this photo is just another bear, but the North American grizzly is only found much further north and is considered to be separate from the Mexican grizzly variety. They have different claw marks, as well as different footprints. Since then, there have been other sightings of these grizzly bears, but those who saw them thought they were just North American grizzlies that had wandered too far from their home. In a 1979 study, however, 15 years after they were supposed to be extinct, there was evidence that the Mexican grizzly had lasted longer than previously thought and could potentially still be around. Number 7. The Japanese river otter. We don't have the video proof of this otter swimming around these days, but there is plenty of evidence of the once cuddly creature pictured here. This type of otter used to be frequently found in the rivers in Japan. It wasn't until the 1930s that it was discovered that they had been hunted until there were only a few left. Still, they were spotted every so often up until the 1970s. After that, they became even harder to find. The year they were finally declared extinct was 2012, which is not that long ago. Just like the rest, it only took a moment for others to start saying that they saw the extinct otter turning up again. Since 2012, there have been 15 sightings of these cute little guys, but the majority of them have been listed as unofficial. Since a lot of these sightings claim to have been in places like polluted rivers, scientists aren't really taking them seriously. Number 6. The eastern cougar. This cougar used to be spotted in just about every East Coast state in the US. The funny thing about this large cat pictured here is that it is still being spotted today, even though it was named extinct in 2011. Since that fateful date, there seem to be even more sightings of the cougar than before it was listed under the ever-growing list of extinct animals. There have been so many, in fact, that there have been websites completely dedicated to sightings broken up by state. In addition to footprints, fur, and droppings, people have supposedly grabbed photos of them as well. Since this is so commonly seen these days, we feel like it didn't go extinct after all. Number 5. The Ivorybilled Woodpecker. It seems like all of these instances of proof are blurry, but there is enough to each of them to make it seem like some of the animals we once thought were long gone actually stuck around. Of course, some would say that there are logical reasons to the fuzzy edges, like the fact that whatever animal you're taking a picture of isn't going to just sit pretty and wait for you to snap the photo. Since it is so much harder to see whether or not blurry photos are fact or fiction, a lot of people automatically throw them out as faked proof of whatever the animal may be. In the case of the image you see here, you'll have to decide whether or not this is proof that the ivory-billed woodpecker is still at large, especially since they were previously thought to have been extinct in both the 1920s as well as the 1940s and were found living time and time again. Number 4. The Japanese wolf. It feels like a lot of this list are extinct animals only found in Japan, but it really makes a lot of sense. Japan is an island that is populated by a great number of people. As the population grows from year to year, the other living things find they have less and less room to live and grow. After generations of this, there are bound to be things that we eradicate just by being around, ripping apart habitats as we go. A while back, there used to be not one, but 2 species of wolf that were only found on the island, the Honshu and the Hokkaido wolves. Instead of becoming everyone's lapdog, these wolves were hunted as they were considered to be a threat to everyone's livestock. We said goodbye to the Hokkaido wolf in 1889 and the Honshu in 1905. However, even though they were listed as extinct, they began to pop up around the countryside. A single wolf was spotted in 1910, then in the 1930s, and then again in the 1950s. Even more began showing up around the 1990s. It is believed, however, that these wolves are a sort of dog-wolf hybrid that have taken the place of the once purebred canine. Number 3. The Tasmanian Tiger. The animal pictured here looks like just a big cat, not anything special. Although that's maybe our personal opinion, that isn't what everyone who has laid eyes on this picture thinks. According to the person who took the photo, as well as all the crypto fan club members out there, this animal is none other than the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, which was wiped off the map in 1936. This is possibly the most commonly cited extinct animal to date, which means that it was most likely not extinct at all. We believe it was hunted to near extinction for risking people's animals and taking too much room that man wanted for himself. There have just been too many sightings in Tasmania as well as mainland Australia to think that the tiger doesn't still exist. They may not have been scientifically confirmed, but here's to hoping that we didn't really kill off yet another species. Number 2. A woolly mammoth. Back when man walked with giant mammoths, we were barely lighting fires and scratching our hairy chins. At least that's what we believed before someone saw a huge elephant-looking animal with long reddish-brown hair and bigger tusks than had ever been seen on an elephant, crossing a river in Siberia. We suppose if a woolly mammoth population was to make it this long, they would be hiding in one of the coldest and most remote locations in the world. We've previously thought they had died out 3,500 years ago, but this picture from the video that captured the mammoth says otherwise. The clip is only 10 seconds long, but that's long enough to see that this really is something extinct. Or a bear with a fish for dinner. Number 1. The Coelacanth. When something comes back from the dead, it really sends shock waves throughout the world, turning everything we once thought we knew completely on its head. That's exactly what happened when we managed to find the extinct Coelacanth. Of course, it doesn't look nearly as ugly as the fish in this image, but the coelacanth is not something that's easy on the eyes. This ancient order of fish was thought to have died out during the end of the Cretaceous period. That's more than 65 million years ago. Since we were so absolutely convinced that these were fish of the past, you could imagine the world's surprise when we found one swimming off the South African coast in 1938. These amazing beings are the oldest living jawed fish known to man, and each can live up to 100 years and possibly even longer. Honestly, these fish are probably going to be adding Homo sapiens to the list of extinct animals long before the fish themselves are named among the bunch.